The BBC is most anxious to know the number of people who are looking in. Would all those who are watching this programme please send a postcard marked Z to Broadcasting House immediately.
It looked as if Baird Television was there to stay. But already, late in 1931, the BBC's Director of Engineering, Noel Ashbridge, had had a visitor. The visitor was Isaac Schoenberg.
He requested an interview and came to see me in Broadcasting House and said that they were going to take television, broadcast television, seriously. And I listened, of course, with a great deal of interest because it was very much in the news at the time. And that was, in fact, our first interview. He then went away and we waited for results.
In November 1932, Schoenberg wrote to Ashbridge inviting him to a demonstration at Hayes with the comment,
"In my humble opinion, the results will be of quite considerable interest to you."
They were. Ashbridge reported back to the BBC.
There were 3 times as many lines as in Baird's system, twice as many pictures per second, and much less flicker.
But they were still mechanical pictures. Another of the team, B.R. Greenhead, now a director of ABC television, remembers,
"The pictures produced by the electronic camera were so poor, in fact almost unacceptable compared with the pictures produced by the mechanical scanning, that it took great courage to decide that the electronic method was the only method to be accepted."
I well remember Schoenberg on one occasion when he was coming round the laboratories and everything possible seemed to be going wrong, commenting to us, "Well, chaps, we are embarked on an uncharted ocean, and heaven knows if we'll ever reach a port."
It was still in the balance. In theory, the electronic camera was the way ahead. In practice, it was still incredibly primitive. The choice lay with Schoenberg, and as he wrote later,
"We frequently had to make a choice between a comparatively easy path leading to a mediocre result and a more difficult one which, if successful, held the promise of better things."
Against the promise of better things was the fact of the Baird Company's possession of the air. Nevertheless, Schoenberg decided to go for the electronic system. In the duel with Baird, he had chosen his weapons despite all the risks involved. Now the BBC was under pressure from both EMI and the Baird Company. Baird hammered at the BBC that they were breaking their agreement with him, that EMI were a foreign company, and that anyway Baird could do as well as EMI. The BBC stonewalled and replied if Baird's could do as well, why were they worried? In April 1933, the battle between the two companies reached the critical stage. It was decided to hold competitive demonstrations. On April the 18th, from Longacre, Baird transmitted his system. The following day, Schoenberg's team went on the air from Hayes. Both demonstrations were watched by Post Office and BBC representatives, and they were agreed on their conclusions.
The results of the EMI demonstrations were immeasurably superior to those obtained by Baird, and the EMI equipment is far in advance of its competitor.
But the Postmaster General was, after all, a politician. Worried by Baird's fame, he ruled that the BBC was not to give Schoenberg facilities which might prejudice Baird's case. And on May the 16th, 1934, he told the House of Commons that the traditional way out of the dilemma had been found. A committee would be set up, a committee under the chairmanship of Lord Selsdon, to
advise the Postmaster General of the relative merits of the several systems of television.
Several systems, in theory. In practice, the choice lay between Baird and EMI, now in open rivalry for the prize of British television. Though deeply anxious over the challenge, Baird remained optimistic.
I think it was very largely due to the fact that he had achieved against impossible odds a picture, television picture, mechanically. He still felt that it was possible to develop the mechanical side to give a really first-class picture. And of course it was a good picture. But what he hadn't realized was the immobility of the transmitting equipment as a result of that concentration.
The committee reported on January the 31st, 1935. What it recommended was that a duel should be held. Both systems should be used alternately under strictly comparable conditions. The venue chosen for the duel was Alexandra Palace. In April 1936, the rivals started to move in with their equipment. Acting as umpire to this strange contest was the man who for 4 years had been the whole of the BBC's television department, Douglas Birkinshaw, senior BBC engineer.